Over the last 5 episodes of our Mega Smash Pole Ultimate series, we've covered the base game in its entirety, from characters to stages to items to modes. But there is still one aspect of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate left to discuss before we can look forward to the future. It's DLC. DLC for Ultimate was primarily focused around its 2 fighter passes, adding in 11 stages and 12 characters and a plethora of new music. But around this was a 13th character in Piranha Plant, tons of spirits, stage builder, and lots of Mii Fighter costumes. It was all exciting to witness over the 2 years following Ultimate's release, but now that it's all out there, was it all worth it in the end? Well, to answer that, let's start by asking a very basic question of you all. Did you buy any of the DLC? Specifically the Fighter Pass. After all, it was optional, unlike the base game content. Well, according to our data, 85.22% of you all bought both passes, with 10.52% buying neither. 4.02% only bought the first pass, and less than 1% bought just the second pass. So let's look at what these passes contained as our first stop, shall we? Pass 1 contained 5 sets, each with a character, stage, new music, and a spirit board with a collection of new spirit events to play through. Pass 2 had all the same type of content but had 6 sets, with the Xenoblade 2 set actually coming with 2 characters technically, even though they only take up 1 spot on the CSS. From the Fighter Pass, we specifically asked questions about the characters and stages, wanting to know what everyone's favourite was for both, and see if we can use that data to figure out what the most popular set was overall, and even the most popular pass in terms of, well, popularity. So let's look at characters first, and this top 10 format we've been doing is starting to get a little tiring personally. Plus we have a lot to cover in this episode, so please don't mind if I just focus on the most interesting results. If you want the full results though, they are available on our website as always, with a link in the description below. So let's break tradition and start from the top. The most popular DLC fighter was Banjo and Kazooie, with 18.25% of the votes. The Bear and Bird duo were the personal favourite of many, and I suppose this is no surprise. They were potentially the second most requested character for Ultimate, and do stand out as a non-humanoid in this stew of pretty boys and girls. Sora, who was the most requested, actually came 4th place overall with 10.47%. According to you all, the main reason these two scored as highly as they did is because they were many people's dream picks, characters they didn't think would ever make it, and created a lot of nostalgia in people, with our audience just having more Banjo fans over Sora. But what came between these two? In 2nd place we had Steve and Alex from Minecraft, and in 3rd place was Sephiroth. Kind of funny that Microsoft would take the top 2 spots, while Square Enix takes 3rd and 4th. Hero wasn't 5th, unfortunately, that went to Mr. Terry Bogard. Sephiroth had the most variation on the reasons he was chosen. While some just love the character and think he's a badass, a lot of people really like his moveset and find him very fun to play as. He also had a very cool reveal trailer, and his entire theming around boss fights, with his classic mode and the Sephiroth mode to unlock him early, it made him one of the more interesting DLC picks. As for Steve and Alex, they're characters who are really fun to play with one of the most creative movesets in Super Smash Bros. It's very accurate to Minecraft and looks hilarious. They were an unexpected pick for many, who were super thrilled when they made the cut. So those were the top, but who was at the bottom? Ignoring Piranha Plant, who wasn't in the Fighter Pass and who was the least popular of the DLC options at 1.84%, Min Min was the least popular at 1.93%. For those who did like her, it was because of their love of ARMS and her uniqueness, but she failed to be as popular as many others. Lastly, I just want to look at the package deal that is Pyra and Mythra. They got 8.23%, being the most popular of the Nintendo first-party characters, and coming 6th place overall. But I highlighted them because some fans voted specifically for one and not both. It wasn't many, 0.4% for Mythra and 0.55% for Pyra, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. In total, this was the popularity order of the DLC fighters. So now that we've covered that, let's look at the stages next and see if any of them match up. Spoiler alert, they mostly don't. Just like with the fighters, there was a stage for every character added, and then one stage added outside of the fighter pass itself, this being Small Battlefield, although it was a free update unlike the paid for Plant. Still, DLC be DLC, and just like Plant, this extra edition was the least popular at 0.6%. But for the purposes of figuring out the most popular pass, we can ignore it. So what was the most popular stage from the fighter pass? Well, none other than the King of Fighters Stadium, scoring an impressive 25.89%. The simple mechanic of having breakable walls on either side of the stage did a ton for this level's popularity, as it dealt with the issues of campers, and was a great blend of traditional fighting games and Smash's KO style. Not to mention all the cameos and music this stage received, an amazing love letter to all the SNK fans out there. On the flip side of things, Yggdrasil's Altar from Dragon Quest was the least popular of the DLC stages at 1.44%. For those who did like it, they found it to be a visually pretty stage with a gimmick that didn't feel intrusive or hugely disruptive, but it seems like for many, it was pretty forgettable. Looking at the first party stages specifically, just like with Pyra and Mythra, the Sea of Alrest from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was the most popular, but the least popular wasn't Arms this time. Garreg Mach Monastery from Fire Emblem Three Houses took that position. It was liked mostly by fans of Three Houses, although some praised the level layout changing as it made it slightly more dynamic than most of the DLC stages, which are all fairly simple. As for other stages, Mementos from Persona 5 was the second most popular stage at 13.89%, followed by Minecraft World at 10.62%, and then Spiral Mountain just lagging behind with 10.47%. But really, the gap between the King of Fighters Stadium and Mementos is pretty large, and makes it feel like a landslide victory for that level. So, how does this affect the Fighter Pass rankings? Well, if we do a bit of math and use a formula similar to what we use for the base game fighters when figuring out their standing in popularity, we can figure out the total popularity of each Fighter Pass set based on its two most important elements. And so what are the results? Well, look at that, we ended up with a list anyway. At the very bottom, in 11th place, is Arms, which includes Min Min and the Spring Stadium stage. In 10th place is Tekken, which includes Kazuya and the Mishima Dojo stage. Interestingly, both the character and stage in this case got the exact same number of votes, 3.27%. In 9th place is Fire Emblem Three Houses, which includes Byleth and Garreg Mach Monastery. In 8th place, we have Dragon Quest, which includes the Hero and Yggdrasil's Altar. So far, that's 2 for 2 on each Fighter's Pass, so what could be next? Well, continuing the JRPG theme, in 7th place we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which came with Pyra and Mythra and the Sea of Alrest level. This is also the last of the first party series. Another JRPG next with Kingdom Hearts in 6th place. This came with Sora and Hollow Bastion, and is a big oof for one who should be the most popular character here. The JRPG train doesn't stop, as Persona is up next in 5th, with Joker and Mementos, the first of the Fighter Pass sets released. And now, the final JRPG series. In 4th place, it is Final Fantasy VII, the only game that got DLC and already had a fighter and stage in Smash. This came with Sephiroth and the Northern Cave stage. It's top 3 now, and we come to the final member of Fighter Pass 2, Minecraft. The fighters were Steve and Alex, and Zombie and Enderman, and the stage was Minecraft World. Only 2 left. Who could be taking that top spot? Let's give a drum roll for 2nd place. It's Banjo and Kazooie coming in to claim that silver medal. The titular heroes were the fighters, and the Spiral Mountain was the stage. This leaves 1st place to go to none other than Fatal Fury, or King of Fighters, or SNK, whatever you want to call the set featuring Mr. Terry Bogard and his arena, King of Fighters Stadium. So what does this all mean for the Fighter Pass then? Which one was the most popular? Well, if we assign each series a score based on their position and then divide that sum by the number of sets per pass, Fighter Pass 1 comes out on top as the most popular pass of the two, despite having less content overall. Maybe it was the early hype or the additions were much stronger here, but this is what the data gives. It's all about quality over quantity. So this might feel like it should be the end of the video, but to be honest, we've got just a little bit left to cover, so don't click away just yet, please. Please, I promise you it will be interesting. First up, we have the Mii Fighter costumes, because there was more DLC than just the fighter passes. For each set in the fighter pass that released, an accompanying Mii Fighter set also dropped. There are a lot of Miis in total and we won't go through them all, but we were curious how many of them were purchased. We asked all of you to tell us how many Mii Fighters you bought, and 16.87% of you bought every single one. That's some dedication to completion. However, almost an equal 15.43% of you bought none of them at all. I guess Mii costumes aren't that interesting for some people. The vast majority of votes, however, went to buying only a handful of costumes, just the few one or two that you liked, with this option taking up 55.95% of the votes. The remaining percentage, 12.15, went to those who bought most of the Mii costumes but skipped out on getting all of them, possibly not bothering with hats or the really obscure choices. As for which Mii costume was the most popular, well, it wasn't even a contest really, and I won't even feign suspense. It was Sans, with a staggering 41.07% of votes. I can't blame anyone, the character is popular, the reveal was memorable, and he came with Megalovania, which is a bop of a track. In second place was Cuphead with 10.71%, and he also came with a track, which goes to show that the premium Mii costumes really do feel like the best. In third place was Doomslayer, fourth was Shantae, and fifth was Bomberman, all of them highly requested characters, and in the case of third and fifth place, these costumes don't really feel like playing as Miis due to the masks that cover the Mii face, which was certainly a bonus for some. The complete list of Mii costume popularity can be found on our website, but just for funsies, the 4 least popular choices were the Ancient Armor, which came as a bonus for those who bought Fighter Pass 2, the Chocobo hat, the Feline hat, and the Judd hat. The hats are easily the least popular of the Mii costumes, which is understandable. They're not really costumes, are they? Now, let's end this video on what could have been. We asked everyone how satisfied they were with the DLC output for this game, and it was all mostly positive. On a scale of 1 to 10, most folks settled around the 7 to 10 mark, with the highest being 27.48% at 8, quickly followed by the 25.05% of you at 9 out of 10. But one thing we wanted to know is what else could Sakurai and his team have given us for DLC? If the scope was larger or the DLC went on for longer, what would you have liked to have seen? I think these results are actually really interesting, and we let people put down as many options as they wanted for this one. The most popular choice, said by over 70% of respondents, was to see Echo Fighter DLC, either standalone or a pass. People just really wanted more Echo Fighters in the game. This was followed by more modes, like Custom Stage Builder. People would have been willing to pay for these modes if they were something big, like a Subspace Emissary type story mode, but other options included Boss Rush, Break the Targets, and even Smash Run returning. Standalone stages come up next at 60.02%, with people wanting new stages or even just returning stages that missed out in the base game, with Pac-Maze, Rainbow Road and Yoshi's Woolly World being used as examples. These 3 choices for further DLC were far and wide the most popular choices, and I think that's to be expected. They are the biggest addition Smash could add after all, but there were some other interesting suggestions from folks. Many people said they would pay for just music packs that added in new remixes and songs from series or games, either already in or new to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. The same goes for spirits, not the free ones we got every so often. I mean dedicated spirit balls like what we saw in the Fighter Pass. Just do that for more games. This went hand in hand with expansions to World of Light. People wanted to see the DLC characters get their own sections of the board, with new spirit matches and maybe even a new boss or 2 at the end of it. There were a lot of smaller one-off requests as well, like more of Palutena's guidance, an expanded Mii editor for the Mii Fighters, voice packs for characters who have different voices in their games, like English for Cloud, Japanese for Shulk, or even more cartoony voices for Bowser, and some folks even suggested something like a Battle Pass, akin to games like Pokemon Unite or Fortnite. The biggest request of all these though was for alternative costumes for existing characters. At 11.06%, lots of people would have been happy to just add some more alts onto the roster of existing fighters, whether it be a colour pack for Kirby or actual costumes like Dry Bowser and Gerudo Link. Someone even suggested a custom colour editor for fighters, which we think is a really cool idea. Maybe for the next Super Smash Bros. Game? Speaking of the next Super Smash Bros., we hope you'll join us for the next episode in this series, as it's one I'm sure you've all been waiting for, as we will be looking at which fighters you all want to see in the next Super Smash Bros. Game. If you're a patron, this video should already be available to you, so go and check it out if you want. And for everyone else, you can always become a patron like the lovely folks on screen right now. You could also like, subscribe, and share these results with your friends so that you can brag about the position of your favourite DLC fighter, assuming it wasn't last of course, but you should share it anyway if it was. And make sure you don't miss out on the next episode by always remembering to return to the source.